The Montgomery bus boycott, led by Dr. King, is probably one of the best examples of how you can use black economic power to bring white supremacy to its knees. When those black people chose not to ride that bus for 381 days, first of all, you gotta have unity. Today, it would be difficult to get half of black Philadelphia or Los Angeles or Chicago or New York to not get on public transportation. So they had the unity. But for 381 days, nobody black rode the bus. And when you read the stories, it was so compelling because many of them would walk their shoes right off. They said some of the grandmas was walking on bare skin, but they would not betray the struggle. They would carpool, and then they made it a crime to carpool, and they started locking them up with the carpools, and they still didn't ride the bus. But then something started to happen. The bus company wasn't making enough money, so they had to lay off drivers. So now the white people are losing jobs because the black people ain't riding the bus. Hold on now. Most of these black people work downtown in the factories and in the business district. We need them to work, but they can't get to work or get there on time. So now you destabilizing the economy of Montgomery. You messing with taxes, you messing with salaries, you messing with businesses, you messing with mercantile affair. So by them not riding, they cripple the employees, the employers, the city, the tax base, and big business.
If you really want to impact white people, mess with their money. Mess with their money. Take food out of their mouth. Put them out of business. It's the only thing that will get their attention.
What we need to do is start to march away from the stores we're spending our money in. Now that's march. That I will participate in.
My pastor said that we have to take the tattoos off of our brain. It has, the hate for ourselves has literally been etched in our brains. But I love us. I love us, and until I die, I will do better about loving my people.
I think we devalue intellectualism within our own community. We know the country does. But I think within our own community, we have devalued intellectualism. All of the people who we revere, from Marcus Garvey to Malcolm X to Sojourner Truth to Ida B. Wells, these are journalists, these are debaters, these are public speakers, these are well-read folks. The Black Panther Party started as student groups in Oakland, folks on college campus figuring out what are we going to do as young people to change our future so we don't end up like domestics, like our parents. So we need to embrace learning again, because the truth is, when we were most engaged in the study of our own history and culture, we posed the greatest threat to the then current political and economic status quo.
We need our children to stop defining themselves by this notion of failure and achievement gap and all of the words, that the buzzwords that somehow you just believe, like the sky is falling. It's not. We have the ability and are thriving. And our children need to see that and know that and hear that conversation a lot more than what's wrong. Because there's a lot right. We need to focus on that.
Why would I want to uplift my slaves? They're my slaves. Because I'm going to keep them beneath me. I'm going to keep them third, fourth to me.
So put together a class for all of us to attend, and we should even teach the kids in the streets this. The kids in the streets need to open bank accounts, need to understand taxes, need to understand stocks, need to understand technology, where that's going, being a venture capitalist. There's a time where I would never want to use the word capitalist because most capitalists are evil bastards. You know what I'm saying? Now I can look at myself and I'm going to play the game. I was born into a capitalist world. Guess what? I'm going to get in. I'm gonna be a capitalist, like a capitalist, whatever you want to call it. I'm coming in.
A lot of times people will try to make black businesses synonymous with minority businesses, and a minority can mean anything.
Because of that minority word, we have to go back to being unapologetically African. We are afraid not to blend in. We want to blend in, so we fight as people of color. We want to blend in. We fight as minorities. Nothing wrong with lending moral support to other people's problems. But your experience in America is unlike everybody else's. Every other person of color in this country came here because they wanted to be here. Everybody. You Asian, Arab, Latino, East Indian, Irish, Italian. Yes, you were hung. Yes, you were beat. Yes, you were mistreated. But it couldn't have been that bad because you could have left and you did not.
Our Jewish brothers and sisters write checks. Our Asian brothers and sisters write checks. Our Arab brothers and sisters write checks. We have to write checks. And that's how you effectively utilize the political system. Write a damn check and see who will answer your call and your email. Or run up to them and say, you know, I voted for you. So did 900,000 other people. Oh, I wrote a check for $1,000. Now you have my attention. Money is the real power. And other groups, other cultural groups, absolutely understand that.
Other groups of people, they have their needs met by politicians because they pool their money together and they go to politicians with an agenda. And that's one thing that African American people will not do. We have to pool our money together with an agenda and take it to politicians. Abel and Gora got together with a lot of Hispanic business people and they created a fund. They brought like $30 million to President Barack Obama, to his campaign, and this is why the president will talk about Hispanic needs. In the gay community, Hollywood had a fundraiser. They brought millions of dollars to Barack Obama's campaign. This is why the president will talk about gay needs and gay agendas. African American people, we can't get our agendas talked about because the thing is, we won't put no money together as a group and bring that agenda to these politicians, and that's the number one thing we need to do. Whenever there's a politician running or trying to get elected, we should form a group, pool our money together, and come to them with a specific agenda for African American people, not minorities.
All of our religious leaders need to get together. Our economic leaders need to get together. And labor, we need to start to hire ourselves.
All of these nail techs and manicure things, right? And I see black women flocking to them, and I don't see black women owning those shops. I don't see black women working in those shops. And so we have to ask ourselves, okay, if this is something you're willing to spend on, think about what that means in terms of job creation in your own neighborhoods when you're providing this service.
We don't have a food corridor. So we need to figure out how can we import food. Even in the African stores here, they have food that comes in out of Saudi Arabia, Israel, and a lot of places, okay? But not the Negro in America, not the black people here. We don't have a food corridor. We don't have any way to get, they even bring in water, they bring in everything. We don't have anything. We're totally dependent on this country. If all the stores close down, we don't have anywhere to go, and we don't have a contact with nobody outside of the country to ship us no food. We don't have a food corridor. That's something that we need to start looking into.
Yeah, there's a new sneaker store that I'm opening up in Vegas called 12 a.m. Run. You know, I'm a sneaker head from back in the 80s, you know, and it's something I talked about doing with other rappers even, like, you know, we sit down talking. A lot of people will talk about, let's do a song. I'm like, we've done thousands of songs, man. Like, let's do a restaurant. Let's do a sneaker store.
If you want to deal with white supremacy, you got to hit them in the pocket. I preach that. Stop going the moral route. You're not going to convince them that racism is bad. They know that. They're not stupid. You have to deal with people where their interests are. And if their interest in money, you hit them in a pocket and you get what you want.
5% of the people who became millionaires were salespeople. People who sold something. Because in America, two things are going on 24/7. Somebody's buying and somebody's selling. Right now, black people are doing all the buying. I tell them all the time, stop doing all the buying and sell something. I don't care if you bake cookies, put them in a box, put a label on it and sell it to somebody. If you live on a farm, take the manure, put it in a bag, put your name on it and sell it to somebody. You can become an entree manure, okay? But sell something. Stop doing all the damn buying. That's all we do. Sell something. So if you want to beat racism, sell something and build a business.
Black people should at least create a parallel economy where they spend their money with the dominant society, but they also spend their money with their own people. They also build infrastructure in the black community, build businesses where they interact and do commerce with other black people. So we should create a parallel economy. So it's like a backup economy so that we could employ other black people and we can just have our own money circulating where we're not totally dependent on the dominant society.
There's those of us who are business people and those of us who are business people. The job of the company that I started, Fraser, that is to put the business people out of business. Because you're messing it up for those of us that are trying to do serious business. Now we know the brother or sister that is the business person. They give you a jacked up business card. They do hair. They do computer software. And they, of course, do detailing in your cars. I'm not sure what they do. They got 2 phone numbers crossed out, and they don't have a website.
Because a lot of African American people are comfortable, it's best for us to just get an economic base in the African American community, since our whole thing is spending money with the dominant society because we're very comfortable. We want to live like the Joneses. Let's just spend our money and create an economic base among each other. But the thing is, if a group of people are dissatisfied, 100%, you will make a 100% change and you won't even need money because your spirit will move you and motivate you to make a change.
In the history of liberation, there was no money involved. Something in here. Go back and look. Look at the black folks in the movement. Huh? That broke them doors down. No money. It's in here.
War. That's the protective aspect of it. We need to reach out to those forces that can protect us against those who would wish us harm.
This was a black man who was in prison in Atlanta. And this young black man, he was in his 20s, said that he was tired of being harassed on the street, you know, being stopped and frisked. And he just made up his mind, I'm going to do something so that there will be a legitimate reason to stop me. And so just acting on his own, and I'm just going by his report. He got a gun and went up behind 3 white men in the business district and killed 2 and blinded a 3rd. I think those were the facts. So I was a psychiatrist talking to him. This was a court case. At a deposition, I was talking about what this young man had said about why he did what he did. And so one of the white attorneys said, are there any other black men who think this way? And I said, I don't know, but as long as you have a system of racism, it could be. And so then his response was, why didn't he just rape a white woman? And I was stunned. And I said to him, do you realize what you have just said? I mean, it's almost like I will offer up the woman. You can have the woman, but leave me alone.
Because America is running out of foreign targets. They got rid of Saddam, who they made. They got rid of bin Laden, who they made. They got rid of Gaddafi, who they also helped to make. And now look, we don't have no more Arab targets. So what are we going to do? It's time to come back home and focus on our original terrorists, the Negro Revolution.
The legal system. We need to get all our great lawyers, Attorney Alton Maddox, all of those that came out of the Johnny Cochran School, all of the lawyers across the country that are struggling for the rights in the legal system. We need to get them all together.
Banks and savings and loans. That's the one thing we need to do right now. We can do it and we should. The second thing, independent African schools. All of this needs to be put in a curriculum and taught. Financial science, they have to be taught. Military science, they have to be taught. Agricultural science, they have to be taught. Diet and nutrition, they have to be taught.
The wealthiest black people on the planet, make no mistake about that, I've traveled every place that black people have been dispersed. I've been to South Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, North Africa, all over South America, and all over the Caribbean. And there are no black people in the entire world doing better than we are. In fact, we are the beacon of hope for every single person of African descent in the entire world. And we know that to whom much is given, much is required.
I was just in London. They catching the same hell. I was just in Canada. They catching the same hell. St. Croix, Bermuda, everywhere I go, it is the same. So why are we not locking hands? Because white supremacy is global. What is the Trilateral Commission? America, Great Britain, Japan. They are global. United Nations, that is global. Council on Foreign Relations, that is global. Black people are not global. You're fighting a global enemy in a global enterprise, but you're not globally organized.
People who classify themselves as white, if they're being righteous and courageous, they themselves will attempt to, well, let's really look at it. Let's stop pretending, you see, or talking about dialoguing together, or let's have dinner together, or let's get to know each other. No, we know each other, but let's talk specifically about the problem that we are dealing with. Let's put it on top of the table and try to be courageous, because I think people who classify themselves as white don't want to talk about it. And I would even say the majority of black people are fearful of talking about racism because they don't want to upset white people, because that can have its repercussions.
We need to get rid of them sellouts. We need to get rid of those individuals who are looking out for themselves, who are the political arm of white supremacy. We need to vote smart. We need to put the people in and make them accountable to us for what is happening to us as a community. And if they're not willing to be accountable, then you don't have a job come election day. And we have to begin to show them that we mean this.
Why don't we train the leaders to take over after us? Because we don't want to admit that one day we have to get off the soapbox. One day I won't be in front of the TV. One day Umar can't do the interviews. One day I'm not going to be a good speaker. One day I got to pass this over. But my ego wants it forever. I want to die with my boots on. And that's the problem with most black organizations. We electing people for president of revolutionary groups at 70 and 80 years old. You don't see white people doing that. You don't see Chinese people electing presidents at 80. The eldership is for the wisdom and the training and the nurturing, not for black people. Our elders are out front. You mean to tell me you're the only person who can do that? You can't find nobody else younger? We still need our elders. They're the mind. They're the wisdom. But you need the youth because they are the charisma. They are the organizers. They attract the energy. An elder can't do that. But because black men are so castrated in American society, we're not given an opportunity to manifest our manhood the way everyone else is. A white man could brag about his stock. Chinese man could brag about his businesses. The Italian could brag about everything he owns. What do we have to brag about? We ain't allowed to get stock. We ain't allowed to own businesses. We ain't allowed to get our doctorate degrees the way that we want. We ain't allowed that. So whenever we get an opportunity to be a man, to be a president, to be an organizational leader, to be a pastor, I'm never giving this up. Because I've been waiting my whole life for this job, and I like it. And I'm gonna make up for all the years I wasn't allowed to be out front.
Introduce me to your 5 closest friends, and that will tell me who you are. As they know and as they go, you go. You know, don't spend major time with minor people. People going nowhere want you to go nowhere with them. People doing nothing want you to do nothing with them. If you want to change your life, change your relationship.
They say our boys don't want to go to school. Our boys don't want to learn. Black boys want to be educated as much as anyone else. The problem is the treatment they get on the way to getting their education turns them off. They need masculine energy. We need black male teachers, and we need black male principals, and we need black male psychologists, and the world is telling us that black men don't want to teach. That's a lie. They're not being recruited because public school is the domain of middle-class white women, and they do not want to see us in there because we will not allow them to treat our kids the way that they treat them.
I am not speaking about all peoples of European descent or all peoples of African descent. I'm speaking of them as a group, because I cannot deal and pull out certain ones. It's like Dr. Edward Scobie, the great Caribbean scholar, who used to always say, don't tell me nothing about no good white people. Because good white people act as shields for bad white people. And they will hide behind the shield of the good one to get into you. And then they'll do their devilment once they've arrived at you.
I tell people all the time, I hope you're spending as much time raising the friends of your children that you are spending raising your child. Why? Because the pressure on your child from their so-called friends will be far greater than any pressure you will ever be able to put on your child. So your friends are critically important. Why? Because it's God's way of apologizing for your relatives.
But I do think that we need to have more independent schools. We need more men to teach our children. We need to be able to turn our boys over to boys' summer camps in the summer with just men there, some brothers that come in there and deal with them.
New article just came out in the New York Times called The Stories That Bind Us. Love this article. They created something called the Do You Know scale. And the Do You Know scale has to do with looking at children who know their stories. Their family. I'm not talking about their family. But auntie and uncle and Pookie, all of us went through. They've shown now that the degree to which children know their stories, good or bad, doesn't matter if it's a story of struggle and tragedy, doesn't matter. But knowing their story will help mediate stress.
You can't take no break when you're up against white supremacy. They have never taken a break since the 1400s, and you taking a break. So the problem ain't that we fall short sometimes, is that we don't pick up and keep on going and prepare the next generation.
A lot of African American people try to be too inclusive, and there's nothing wrong with being inclusive, but you have to take care of your group first. Other groups of people, they look out for their group first. Instead of us looking out for our group, we try to look out for everybody else, and that doesn't work for us in the long run because we let other groups of people hijack things that are meant for us. Because the thing is, we talk about reparations as African American people, but if the government said, look, tomorrow we're going to give African American people reparations, you know what, we were wrong. We're going to make everything right. So tomorrow morning, all African American people show up to get your reparations check. You know what's going to happen? First thing tomorrow morning, people who look like Justin Timberlake are going to show up wearing dashikis and kente cloths, talking about Assalamu alaikum, I'm 1/16th African American. And black people will let it happen. So the thing is, we have to take care of our own group first so that all of our benefits won't get hijacked.
They love to see us suffer with grace. Oh, it hurts so bad, Master, but I was going to keep on working anyway. They love it when they see us doing bad, but we come through it and say, oh, I took it, take a licking and keep on ticking. They love that. Oh, he had a hard time, but he stayed with it. Why should we have to live like that?
You know, frogs adapt to the water. They adapt to whatever the temperature is. If it's cold, they adapt. If you take it and they warm up, they adapt. You put it on the stove, they will adapt until they boil, literally. And all you gotta do is tap the bowl, and the frog will jump out. Just tap the bowl. So what happens to us is we are boiling. Someone needs to tap the bowl. That's what I do. I tap the bowl, and that's all you need.
If you take a people, and in this people, they want to rise and do great things, and you do everything you can to make them rise and be great, they're great. You take this other people that want to be great, and you do everything you can to stop them from being great. Yet in spite and despite of your attempts, they still become great. They're great. They're greater.